Start the broadcast. All right. How's everybody doing?
Right.
Looks like we have a few empty seats. We had a full RSVP list. So I don't know if folks got lost or what. We even had a wait list. So, did it have a hard time finding it? All right. I'll have to work on putting up some kind of directions. Maybe I'll take a picture out front and show folks where it's at that
The
way.
GPS definitely stopped me way up there.
Oh, way down the road? Okay. That's good to know. That's really good to know. GPS systems tend to be a little bit off.
Dumps you off in the worst possible neighborhood. It's like, good luck.
It's somewhere around here. Just get out and ask. So, to start off with, well, they'll be up in just a moment, our sponsors, scrolling along behind me here. And I got a couple of things really quick with the SEO meetup, and then we'll get to talking with Mark about Google Direct Answers. First thing is, show of hands real quick. How many people have a Twitter account? Awesome. I need you to hop onto your Twitter account during the meeting. We're going to be beta testing our new question and answer system, our new Q&A system. It's built into the website, so if you point your browser to raleigh.seo.org/live, you'll be directed to a page where you get to see the video, and you also have a stream of questions that are coming in. Those questions are submitted through Twitter. Off the top of my head, I'm forgetting the hashtag for tonight. JR, what was that again? We'll pull it up in just a moment. It's on the website, but we'll announce that to everyone here.
QA Raleigh SEO.
QA Raleigh SEO. So that's the hashtag we're using for tonight. So if everything works as it should, you can tweet in a question using the hashtag QA Raleigh SEO, and that will show up on the website. The cool feature that JR has built for us is when those tweets come in, you can actually vote them up. So we can see which ones are the most popular questions and answer those first and see if we can get to the rest. The system is supposed to only support, at this point, 100 questions. So trying to use that hashtag just for questions, not for just general tweets about the event. And so the goal for this evening is to have everybody in the room here and the few folks that are watching online as well tweet in questions. We're going to try to answer those questions. We're going to see if we can give JR something to do next week, fixing whatever we break with the plugin that he's put together for us. All right. Anybody got any questions about how that works or how to help out with beta testing that? Okay. So without further ado, we've got Mark Traphagan going to come and talk with us about Google Direct Answers and help us figure out what we can do for our own websites to navigate this new system. Awesome. Thank you very much.
So first thing I want to know about the, very first thing I want to know is how do I switch over to the presentation.
Yes.
Second thing I want to know is, does that thing have a filter in it that filters out the hard questions?
No, those are the ones voted up to the top.
An ultimate reject button. Okay. But as we were joking before before we started here, this is about Google Direct Answers tonight. So everything will be a direct answer. There will be no, unlike any SEO meetup you've ever been to before, there will be no ambiguity. There will be no who knows. There will be none of that. It's all direct answers tonight. We're promising, as long as Google can provide them. But this is something that is an interesting topic because it's one of those topics. Really, everything you guys know this, and everything in search is constantly evolving and constantly changing. But this particular feature of search is changing more rapidly than most, almost literally right before our eyes. In my network, my social network, I have a lot of people who are experimenting with this, testing it, watching, trying all kinds of queries. And I can say literally every day somebody finds something that we haven't seen before, a type of answer or a particular question being answered directly by Google. And just yesterday, we started seeing some tweets and some announcements going out that Bing is now doing more types of rich answer boxes, which we'll see some examples of that tonight. So not surprisingly, Bing, Google does something, Bing will come along and copy it in some way within a certain amount of time, but they're already doing that. So let's plunge in and look at what we're talking about tonight. So this is Google's mission statement, and I'm going to read it to you and read it carefully with me. Google's mission is to organize the world's websites and make them universally accessible and useful. Right? Everybody good with that? Just before we move on, that's Google's mission statement, right? Class, anybody see a problem there? No, it's not Google's mission statement. This is the actual mission statement of Google. It is to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible, not its websites. And that is a key thing that is important to all of us as online marketers, as SEOs, as people who have websites, that we've maybe labored under this myth, maybe not one that we've said out loud, but it's been there, it's been in the back of our minds, that Google is about organizing websites, about getting people to websites. But the truth is that Google only ever did that. They did that from the beginning because that was simply the easiest way to organize the world's information, because we were all doing it for them. It was, the ultimate crowdsourced project is the web. Think about it. Everybody building these websites, everybody structuring information, and all Google had to do was go and index it and come up with a ranking system to try to get us to the best possible information at any given moment. But again, they've just done that for the last 10, 12 years because that was the easiest way to access all of this information. But now we're beginning to see the beginning of a change in that if there are other ways they can get that information, if there's other ways that they can present it and display it for users, then they're going to do that. Here's a quote from a 2014 blog from Eric Schmidt, the chairman of the board, I want to say former CEO of Google, wrote on their European blog, "We built Google for users, not websites." I mean, if you need it any more clearly, there it is. Google does not exist to make your website more visible. Google does not exist to help people find your website. That's not their mission. And so that's always been the case, but now with what we're going to be talking about tonight and seeing tonight, the battle is on even more so that that's true, and that if they can find a way to bypass you, they will. So I know it's kind of starting out on a horrible downer tonight, but hopefully as the night goes on, what I want to present is that while it might look hopeless or it might look like certain means of where you can get traffic before are being swallowed up by Google and taken away from you, there are also opportunities here, and we're going to try to begin to explore some of those as we go also. So in the beginning, there were the 10 blue links, right? That's what there was, and for a long time on Google, it's primarily what there was. But all of us here are well aware that it's been a long time since we've seen any search result just 10 blue links. This is a chart from a recent blog post by Pete Myers, Dr. Pete from Moz, where he talked about the blog post was called "The Incredible Shrinking SERPs," which I can't even say that one time, let alone 10 times. But in that, he was talking about how many queries now are being returned with fewer than the 10 blue links, the 10 links that we all know and love and track and stay up late at night trying to figure out how to move up 2 or 3 of them. So here he's showing in this particular chart what he calls verticals. Verticals are different types of search result displays that are other than the traditional blue link with a couple lines of text under it. So these would be things like site links, expanded site links, or news results, or in-depth articles, or image results, those types of things. And he's showing that when those occur in the search results now, it's becoming more and more common that Google displays less than 10 links. So it's, for a lot of queries now, it's not even the case anymore that, got into number 10, at least I'm on the first page of Google. You may not even be on the first page anymore with an 8, 9, or 10 ranking, or something, in some cases even worse. Now, they're jumping into what we're talking about directly tonight. One of those things, and one of the most obtrusive things, it's taking up not only space, but taking away ranking and taking away clicks in many cases, are these direct answer boxes, what we're going to be talking about tonight. And direct answer box, if you don't know the definition, is just where you type in a query and Google puts in a box, literally at the top of the search results, some type of answer to that query that doesn't necessarily require a click-through to a site. Before they started doing this, anything that would be displayed in Google, they're giving you the answer, but they're giving the answer that are links to websites. You have to click through the website to get the answer. Now, in many cases, more and more cases, they're giving the answer directly in the search results. And it started just some simple direct answers. You could type in something like, when was Abraham Lincoln born? And you get a little tiny box top that just have the date in there, that type of thing. But it's getting more and more sophisticated. I'm going to show you, just go through quickly here, some examples of just some of the types. And these are all from a study that we did at Stone Temple Consulting, my agency, 2 months ago, so back in February. As I said, almost every day people are finding new examples or new types, new kind of hybrids of these answer boxes that Google is experimenting with. So this one is one, getting down to the rich answer boxes where it goes beyond just that simple, Abraham Lincoln was born on this date. This is a tabbed result, and these tabs are actually interactive on there. So if you type in Baskin-Robbins menu, and you'll get this for menus for a lot of restaurants now, displays the menu. And if the menu, if somewhere online there was a menu for that restaurant that has different, maybe has a breakfast, lunch, and dinner menu, or in this case you can see they have ad links, they have classic flavor ice cream, they have seasonal flavors, and even more. You can scroll over on that. But those are interactive tabs. You can actually click on those, and what's in the box, the menu, will change as you go through it. Okay, here's a table result for the query, what teams played in the 2014 World Series. And you can see it actually has it in a tabular format. As you can see now, interesting down at the bottom, this will note this from before. Notice that underneath that one, it's giving the immediate answer for the 2014 World Series, but it says 111 more rows, 3 more columns. So there's a lot more data on this source. And this is the kind of thing we want to pay attention to. A little bit later in the presentation, we're saying like there's some opportunities on these boxes. They're not always necessarily robbing from your site. And maybe I should make that clear at this point. Anybody in the room that's not aware of it, more and more of this information is coming from your website. When we first saw these things, almost all of the information was either just public domain information that was in Google's own databases, or it was in something like Wikipedia or Freebase, one of the big public databases. But most of it was from Wikipedia. I saw that. Now you're seeing more and more that's being scraped. No other word for it. The stuff that Google's hates that when we do to each other, they now do to our own sites and scrape the information right off.
Isn't that just scraping all of our content in essence?
It is just scraping all of your content in essence, yeah. Well, thankfully, at least for now, it's not all, and that's where some of the hope lies. So we're giving you kind of the bad news here first, and then we'll get to the potential good news. But there's a hint of it here because there's more information hidden underneath this table. I'm getting one answer, but I might want to dig deeper. You might already be thinking where the opportunities lie here. Okay, here's another type of slider. This one's really interesting. We asked, what is the time zone of Russia? It was an intentionally ignorant question because if you know anything about Russia, the whitest country on earth, there's no way there's one time zone. And so Google kind of politely says to us, you dummy, there's a lot of time zones. And it puts them in a table here, but these are actually interactive sliders. And if you click on any of those time zones, the result, it slides up. You get all the search results below it change to being specific to that time zone, and you get a box down below with information about that time zone. So that's an interesting one, kind of creative. Sometimes we see them with a knowledge panel. So here, who is Rin Tin Tin? We get the direct answer box up at the top there, but we also get a knowledge panel result, a sidebar, and it's very interesting when you're doing thousands of these and looking at them because there isn't yet any discernible pattern. Why does one celebrity get that and the other one doesn't? It's somewhat random and changes sometimes. You'll get a result. Some of these things I'm telling you now, so that in February, if you type them in now, tonight, if you went and typed them in, you wouldn't necessarily get the same result. You might not get an answer box. We've tracked them for some sites that have been getting them, and typing the exact same query from the same computer, incognito, everything's set up the same. 3 days in a row, the answer box is there. You go the next day, it's gone. You think, oh, we lost it. 2 days later, you go back and it's there again. So there's a lot of weird, shifting going on, experimenting. It's something that's not at all stable or settled in yet as far as what Google really wants to do with it.
Sorry,
Go ahead. These are all desktop examples, but it does occur on mobile, obviously now too. And rather than getting the whole thing of like the Google Now cards, all of that sort of stuff, there's a whole other thing on mobile. But you can get a lot of these on mobile. You won't necessarily get a lot of more complex, like the richer ones, like I'm showing you here with sliders and interact tabs, like that. But we are seeing those on mobile. So. And mobile again, we all know precious the real estate is on mobile. So you get an answer box on mobile, it's taking up almost the entire above the fold area. So that's significant. Here's another type, which is interactive form. It's actually a form you can interact with. So we asked, how many calories in a pepperoni pizza? There's a lot of websites that were built out there to tell you that information. Don't need them anymore. Google's got it right here. And not only does it give me just a general answer, 285 calories, but I can select type. I can get a drop down there and the quantity and all these things to figure that out.
Do we do quantity, the full pie, so we can figure out?
Yeah, these are images I can't remember. But you're wondering because like Jake's wondering because he says I just had one earlier tonight. I'm wondering how far off the diet was I? Yeah. When you get that, when you put the whole pizza in Google, just reads the answer like you don't want to know. It just says that. We said they are direct answers. Okay, here's sometimes you get a chart like this. Very interesting. What is the GDP of the USA? And it gives us the answer. The current answer gives us a time chart. Interestingly enough, compares it to China. A little scary result there. China is shooting up underneath this. We've even seen this, a carousel result. This is from a blog post by my boss, Eric Enga, who is lives in Boston area, lifetime Red Sox fan. So you know what he was searching for, the roster for the Boston Red Sox, and we get it in an expandable carousel. Sometimes you get an image in the result. This is for the movie Jupiter Ascending. Sometimes comparative or relative items. We ask the capacity of the Allstate Arena, and we get 3 other arenas underneath, just showing us some other things, and those are all clickable. And then you see sometimes step-by-step or lists. Here we say okra boiled. Google's assuming that we're typing it in because we want to boil okra. So it scraped our results from betterhomesandgardens.com, BHG.com, and gives us an okra. Notice, again, these answer boxes are small and very specific, even the rich answer boxes like this. So you can see if there's 2, cook the okra. Obviously, this is taken from a larger, there was probably a whole step before that about preparing the okra, which if it was me, it would be cut the okra into small pieces, open the trash can, and throw them away. I like it. But then there are 2, and maybe there was another thing after that. 3, maybe about suggestions how to serve it, whatever. It's just focused, it just scraped out that specific part, assuming that's the nugget that you want to get. But this could be an opportunity again, too, because notice that the link is given. That is a clickable link down to there. This will be there for if you wanted to know more, you might click through. Yes?
Does it always give the URL where you got that information from?
We'll hold that question. We'll actually show you some figures on that in just a few moments. Okay, and this is a really interesting, this is a mobile result, as you can see, but we're seeing a few of these, not a lot, but more and more of them, where sometimes it gives the answers in the search suggestions. Search suggestions, when you start to type in a query on Google, and it starts to already give you some suggestions about what you might be searching for. And here, we were typing in, we only got the capital of New, we didn't get to York, and it's assuming that the most likely query, I guess, is most people type in capital of New York. So it gives us the answer, and that's not even an answer box. That's in the drop-down search suggestions. So that's pretty amazing. All right, now this one is very interesting. This is from Aaron O'Reilly of Glassdoor, who's the chief SEO at Glassdoor, which is if you're not familiar with them, they are a job hunting site. And he picked up this one. This is one he showed at SMX West in his presentation. He called this a spoiler alert result, because here realsimple.com has gone through, or I'm sorry, this one's Butterball. Butterball has gone through all the trouble of obviously developing this wonderful content, probably very lengthy content, everything you'd ever need to know about roasting a turkey, but I just wanted to know how long. So now this isn't scraping from some site that just had that as a, one line on a page, here's how long you cook a turkey. It's in the middle of this entire lengthy recipe, but Google was able to recognize that they were giving the time for cooking the turkey. And now, also sometimes these answers are not useful and wrong. Can anybody see what's wrong here? Am I getting the answer I was really looking for?
No, you remove that out.
Well, read the answer. Yeah, saying like begin checking the turkey done about 30 minutes before the recommended cook time. The recommended cook time is what I was looking for. It's not giving me that, right? It's not telling me how long to cook the turkey. So, this is an example of Google is trying to implement very rudimentary artificial intelligence here, very rudimentary, algorithmically reading a website, trying to understand, oh, this might be an answer to that question, when any human being looking at this, I hope, wouldn't think that they only have to cook their little turkey for 30 minutes. Your guests are not going to be coming back for another Thanksgiving if you only do that.
It does say.
It is there, but right. The bold, I didn't bold. Bold is bolding. They're bolding that as the answer. So they will do this sometimes when they're trying to scrape a specific answer out of a large piece of text. They'll display the text and they will bold what they think is the answer. So they're telling you 30 minutes is the answer, which is not. But he called it a spoiler alert result because of that, the whole kind of thing of a spoiler alert, right? You got the big movie and somebody tells you the ending, it's done. Well, if it did have the right answer here, bolded, you'd be done because all you wanted to know is how long to cook the turkey. I don't need to go to butterball.com. Now I've got the answer. Okay, now we're going to move into the next part here and talk about, well, how is Google determining these sites to get the answer? How is it finding these things? And we don't know, of course, but this is Bill Slosky, who also presented on this at SMX West. If you don't know Bill Slosky, he is our expert, everybody's expert on Google patents. He reads the patents, so we don't have to. He has a law background, so he has a training in that. He's not just some Joe reading the patents. He's very good at it and very good at picking out significant things from them. Always with the caveat that, like with any company, you can take out a patent on anything. It doesn't mean that you are ever going to use it, that you do use it. It doesn't mean you're going to use it exactly the way the patent says. Google patents all kinds of things just to protect the intellectual property. And sometimes you take out a patent just to keep your competition from doing something that you're not even going to do yourself. You just don't want them doing it. But still, the patents are one of the most interesting places to mine to see what's Google thinking about. How are they thinking? How are they just learning things? So these are things that he found from 2014 patent of Google that he thought could be relevant because the patent was about mining websites for information. How do you determine, how does a machine determine something on a website that might be actual useful information that would fit a query? Well, that sounds exactly like what direct answers are doing. So this is just some of the examples he gave, going through quickly. Tab data. So these are the things on the websites that would possibly trigger that site being a candidate for Google scraping it for an answer. So tabular data here, meaning some contain columns. You can link those two things. Things like Google are learning to recognize on a page, that's not just a string of words, that's a piece of useful data. If somebody wants to know, I'm going to the Westin Dulles, just pick that up because that's where I'll be Saturday night. If you're looking for me, if you want to buy me a drink, come up to the Westin Dulles. And if you're going to the Westin Dulles and I just tend to I wonder what time check-in time is. Well, Google can pull that right off the page and potentially tell me. Structured snippets, obviously, we've had sessions about that here before. Structured data on the page, that's an obvious one. Knowledge if your site is a knowledge base and is recognized as a kind of database of a certain piece of information, that's an obvious one. And then query stream data, this is a little bit more complex. This is where you bring together a knowledge base with a web document, and because of the machine watching over time how people interact with information and answers that they get, it can pull the two together and say, when people search for this, they go here and they go here, and there's that, and why do they go to those two places consistently? Oh, there's information there that relates in some way, so we can pull that together.
If people run into the legal problem,
Yeah, that's interesting. I know in his article, Eric Ingham in Boston's article on this said that, this is scraping. I guess this is legal. I'm not a lawyer. I don't. That is an interesting area, because you could say the information on my site is copyrighted, but there's fair use laws, all kinds of things like that. And again, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't want to comment on that. But I would be surprised if at some point that doesn't come up. Google's certainly being challenged in everything else in the world these days. I'm sure at some point somebody will make that challenge. It'll be interesting to see what happens when that comes about. Okay, I'm going to dive in now and give a little more detail on some things we found out. We did back in January and February this year. We actually asked Google 850,000 questions. It was a lot of long nights, but we didn't. Some of it was human. The human part, it was very hard, and our wonderful staff, a lot of volunteers on our staff did this, was vetting the responses that we got back. We did look at everything. A human being looked over everything to try to make sense of it, but we did write programs. So we got back at Google. Google scrapes us. We scrape them, and fed in 850,000 answers. And these queries were all designed to be the kind of queries that we thought might be relevant. That you can go to that stonet.co/rich answers. And our whole methodology is there if you're interested in it, how we came up with how we ourselves machine generated 850,000 unique queries that might be the kind of thing that Google could return an answer on. So what we want to see is how many answers did we get back? And you see it right there in the graphic at the top. Of those 850,000 queries, we ran it, finished running it in February, we got 19.5% back with these answer boxes or rich answers. Now, we fully expect that is increasing all the time. We're going to run this again at the end of the year and do a comparison to see again. But that's as of February, so about 20% of things that you think could be answered by Google were being answered with a direct answer box already. That's a pretty significant percentage.
Hope you don't mind me asking the question, but as a business owner, why? How could you guys possibly fund doing that? I mean, that was got to be a lot of man hours.
Well, this is our business. We're a digital marketing agency, and we sort of
but still, where's
what's the return on this for doing this? To us, it's worth it because we, you're forcing me into a commercial here, but we want to position ourselves as showing we can do this kind of thing. We can run this kind of data. We have the capabilities, the capacity, and it's what we do for our clients as well. So it gives us a chance to show off what we can do. This is years of investment, not only in manpower talent, human power talent, but also in a lot of technology that we invested in to do these kind of studies. And we're turning these out all the time. As long as you gave me the opportunity for a commercial, put a little plug in, watch later this week, stonetemple.com. We're going to be, if all goes well, later this week, we will be releasing a huge study on the mobile the mobile ranking update. We're tracking hundreds of thousands of sites, tens of thousands of sites, hundreds of thousands of queries for a before and after. We ran several weeks ago, ran through these, got a benchmark for these sites, and we've analyzed them by mobile friendly, mobile unfriendly, and we're going to be pulling out the data on that. And by the way, we went further because a lot of people are realizing that the mobile friendly label doesn't always work right. Sometimes you can actually be mobile friendly, and for whatever reason the label doesn't display, so that's not a guarantee. But we're looking at other, we actually went in and grabbed from these sites, whether they had the characteristics that should make them mobile friendly. So whether they're responsive or whatever, we look at several different things. So that'll be coming out later this week. Yes.
How do you see getting a return on investment for this? How do you see your clients?
Well, have me come back for another time. And we'll talk about content marketing. This is content marketing. This is our content. This is how we, to me, I mean, this is a simple way of explaining it. It's, why does Costco, and I know this has no economic relevance, but, when you go to Costco and you're walking through the aisles, why do they have all these people out giving you free food? This is our free food we're giving away. This is where we get to show, because every digital marketing agency in the country, they, we're the experts. We know everything. We're really good. We say like, no, look, we're good. This is where we get to put that on display. And we know over the years, from our experience, this brings us the kind of clients that we have. It's not the only thing, but it is a deal sealer in many cases that we do this kind of thing. So that's the ROI. So anyway, 20% of those, this is out of order, but just kind of another interesting example of kind of things that we saw in the study. One of the fun things, one of the side effects of that study was getting to see a lot of these results, and we got to uncover a lot of ones that nobody had seen before because we were looking at so many of them. Now this is interesting too. I think this was your question, Pamela, or somebody's. This is what we said was how many of them had. Now this graph, this circle is all of those 19.5%. These are all the results that returned an answer box. Of them, how many had attribution? And we found about 25%, about a fourth of them in February had no attribution, meaning there was nothing to click on in there. It didn't lead you anywhere. It was just information. Now, to be fair, most of that appeared to be public domain info. By public domain info, I mean, what time is it in New York City? That's not something you need to scrape from a website. Google can run a calculator that figures that out. So the good news, I guess, is that 75% of those, and most of those were scraped from websites, do have attribution, meaning there's a link in the content that can send you somewhere else potentially. But in the next part of the presentation, we're going to talk about the likelihood of what types of answers do result likely in a click, actually sending traffic to your site, and what kind don't. And then to look ahead, what we're going to end with tonight is what you can potentially do, how you can structure information on your site to try to get the latter, or decide whether you even want to. And that's a decision point. We'll talk about that a little bit too. Okay, now here's an example, a very notable exception. This is not public domain information. This is copyrighted information. This is a song lyric. You can't just put a full song lyric up on your site. You have to have the rights to it. And Google has begun displaying, sometimes you type in a song, this is When the Hammer Falls lyrics, right? Very lucrative, very highly competitive vertical in search is song lyric sites. All the battles between song lyric sites to try to rank for that. Now Google's giving it directly there. We did get confirmation from somebody at Google that they do have the rights to these. So it's not coming up for every song, but they've gone out for some body of songs. They've gone out and they have actually paid for the rights to display them here in search. This is incredibly bad news if you run a song lyric site. Not good news. A friend of ours named Glenn Gabe he's an SEO who actually has a lot of major song lyric sites as his clients. And he ran a study on this, found out which songs were getting shown in Google like this, which weren't, looked at and showed a dramatic drop in traffic, not surprisingly, for those sites when Google was showing the song responsibly. So this is the really bad news. And maybe this is a good point to stop and give one of the morals of the story here. If you're, and this is something we probably should have realized for quite some time now. If you're building your online business model around providing generic or public domain information, or even in some cases, information like this that you had to pay for, that probably is not a good long-term business model. Google, remember again, they're about organizing information, not organizing their websites. If they can find a way to get people that are, why are they doing this? Let's take a psychological moment here and take a step back and remember, Google's a business and they are primarily an advertising business. Advertising is where the revenue comes from. So their goal is always a user. Eric Schmidt at the beginning said we don't do Google for websites, we do Google for the users. Well, meaning we want to keep the users as happy as possible. And when are search users happy? When they just get the answer they were looking for. They don't care. If they don't have to click on a link to get the answer, that's delightful. And they're going to keep coming back to Google again and again because Google answers their questions and they're exposed to the ads. So, that's, and in many cases, Google does this as a loss leader because a lot of times when you get those rich answer boxes, there are no ads on the page. You say, well, that was a lot. So I consider that like a loss leader. It's like we're trading in your happiness here. You got a happy answer that you're going to come back 9 or 10 more times. You're going to get ads, going to be exposed to the ads. All right, that's the sermon. Oh, wrong way. Okay, so let's get into some potential good news. Can it be a gift to you instead of a curse? Can an answer box actually send traffic to your site? And the answer we're thinking is yes. I say we're thinking because it is hard to prove directly, but there's a lot of smoking guns out there, and it makes sense. We'll show you some of these. Now, first of all, some cases definitely not. If you're weather.com, this is not a happy result for you, right? If you give weather information because what temperature is it outside, and you say where I am. Google knows where I am, my location location. So, at the time we did this, it was in Framingham, Massachusetts. So they just give us the temperature. Notice there is no link. There is no attribution. There's no link to weather.com or anybody else on there. Is there? Oh, I'm sorry. More on weather.com. Right. Okay. I'm very tiny little link. Good eyes. Okay. But are you if all you wanted to know is the temperature outside, are you likely to click that link? It's probably why they made the link so tiny. It's like, nobody ever clicks on it, right? It could be like more on weather.com in 48 point type, and nobody would still click on it because the question was answered. So the main point here is that whether there's attribution under or not, is that if the question is fully answered and it's a simple question, then you're probably not going to get a click. This is robbing traffic from you. Now, here is the next best scenario. This is a step-by-step type result. And sometimes what we see is, remember I said these boxes are very concise. So they try to just grab the main information, just give you enough. But if you look there at number 2 and 3 and how to improve your credit score, at the end of them, there is an ellipsis on each one. That indicates that there was more. In other words, there was kind of a whole paragraph, actually, if you go to the original site for number 2 and 3, but they only grabbed the first sentence for those. And those ellipses are clickable. Now, this one, as I say, is maybe good news because how many users realize that you can click on those? I guess if people just experiment, say like, oh, there's, the ellipses probably means there was more to that, and somebody waved their mouse over it, they might notice that it lights up as a link. They click it, and now you've got traffic to your site. So something like this might drive some traffic to you. It has a better chance than telling you what the temperature is. Here's another one. And this one, I think, has a very good chance of resulting in traffic to your site. And that's where they only show part of the list or so many steps, and they say more items, and that more items is clickable. And this one, I think a user is more likely to click. If I saw this, I would try to click on that, right? Or I want to know all this. Okay, I want to know how to mix concrete by hand. You got me. I've got the water in now, and now I got watery concrete. You left me there with just watery concrete. What's next? I need to know. This, I would bet money that this has generated significant traffic for QuickCrete, for people searching for that. Now, thankfully, we do have a case study here where it looks like a result that shouldn't have driven traffic actually did, almost certainly. We can't find any other reason for this. This is a friend of mine named David Kutcher, lives up in Massachusetts. He runs a web design business up there, and he did this. He also has does some side things on his blog. So he had a whole blog post. His blog post was created 2.5 years ago on what is an RFP. It's a request for proposal, something that in our business we deal with all the time. And he had that information up there. They had it up. It had always been, when it started ranking, it ranked pretty well, but it had always been like around the 3rd or 4th position on the page. And so it had driven, steady over the couple of years, a steady dribble of organic search traffic, but nothing to write home about. And all of a sudden, one day he noticed that it was in an answer box. He happened to search for it online, and there his site was. That's Confluent Forums is his site with the answer in there. And then he went immediately to analytics, and he saw that recently, like just shortly, a few days before he first saw this, there was a 20% jump in traffic for that page. And it held steady the whole time. By the way, for whatever reason, a couple weeks after we took this screen capture and looked at this thing in depth, that answer box went away, and that traffic went right back down where it was before. So he was getting 20% more traffic to a 2.5-year-old page because it was in the answer box. Now, the other curious thing about this answer box, if you look at it, is it doesn't have any of those features that I mentioned a moment ago. There's the whole definition is there, right? You know, you say, what is an RFP? It tells you what an RFP is. There's no ... after it. There's no more information on there. So you think it would stop. Why is he getting 20% more traffic? Well, we think it's because of at least a couple of things. One is that it's a complex topic. So if you have information where you're giving a concise answer, but the topic is a big topic, it's a good chance that a certain number of the people that go to that are not really looking for just a one-line definition. They want to know more. And so they're going to click through to your site to find it. So that could be one cause. And the other might be, I think, his brilliant title tag, which told you that there's more on the page. If you look at the title tag there, the blue link, it's not only what is an RFP, where to find RFPs, and RFPs relevant. I mean, that's telling you this is a high content page. This is like your complete guide to RFPs. So that could have resulted also psychologically in more people clicking through to say, oh, there's more to learn here. There's some interesting kinds of things I play with this psychologically to, because think about what's happening here. If Google is taking your content and promoting it to the #1 position and putting a big box around it and, practically flashing in everybody's face and saying, here's the answer. That's bad news if that's it and people stop. It's not only bad news, by the way, for you if you're that person that got in the box, but guess what? It's probably almost certainly bad news for everybody on that page because they all just became, now it's, everybody's down there squabbling like, we got to get from #4 to #3, we got to get from #5 to #4. And it's all like you're looking down at them and say like, it doesn't matter. None of you are getting anything anymore. Everybody's just clicking on the top. But it could be good news if you get up there with a type of answer that says, ooh, that's interesting, but I need to know more. Now Google, it's like getting a free, #1 spot in AdWords. So that's what we want to try to think about. How can we get there if we can? Question?
So what is implied in all of this is that you do something to get there. But just as you said, he was there for how long?
2.5 years. Yeah. Now, right, most of the people. No,
how long was?
Oh, how long? For about 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Okay. Now it dropped off. You know what? About 2, 3. I think it was 3 weeks later. It came back. Remember I said at the beginning, like these things, like they're testing, they're experimenting. We've seen tests occasions when 2 people sitting in the same room do the exact same query, and one of them gets an answer box, and the other one doesn't. So they're just testing. They're fully like, okay, we'll put it in for a while. What happens if it's there? How does that affect everything on the page? How long do people stay on the page? Who knows what they're tracking? On that. And then what happens? What happens if take it again? Now what does everybody? And we'll put it back. And we'll put it back. Give it to him, not to him. This is the kind of testing that they do all the time. And I think we're seeing it's so weird. It's like this weird. Nothing's settled in yet. It's got that feeling about it, like this is a grand experiment, and they're fiddling with it. So yes.
Did you happen to notice where he fell in the list when he wasn't in the box?
Yeah, as I said before, they were pretty consistently like 3 or 4. They just, over the 2.5 years, they'd never risen above 3 that he knew of for that query. What is an RFP, which was the main query they were after.
After he was in the box, he still went back down to 2 and 3.
Yeah, did not affect the regular ranking of his site. We are going to show you one effect that it does have in just a moment. It actually does have an effect on the regular SERP, but the regular result, but not a ranking effect that we can see to any extent anyway. We can't, outside of the normal fluctuation of stuff that goes up and down all the time. Okay, and then just another interesting example here and a little story to go along with it. This was from Aaron O'Reilly he's Aaron Riley of Glassdoor, again at SMX West. He calls this the mega snippet, and this is what I was talking about a moment ago. First, I'll show you what I mean by mega snippet. They notice that often when they get an answer like this, an answer box, it changes their regular result. So see where that red arrow is? They're getting the same paragraph that was in the result. Now, is that worth anything? I don't know. But it's an interesting thing that Google's doing. So they actually change, instead of just the normal 2 lines of meta description that you get underneath the link, they're getting that, the same paragraph that's up in the answer box is inserted into their regular result. So, maybe it's worth something. Maybe if, somebody for some reason skipped over the answer box and they're still scanning down the results, your result still kind of stands out a little bit more because it has that paragraph in it. I don't know, why are they doing that? Who knows? But that's what he calls the mega snippet. But the story behind this is what you are looking at right now was a successful jump into an answer box. What Glassdoor knows, Glassdoor had published this study. They paid a lot of money to run this. You were asking before about the stuff we do. It costs a lot of money. Did a lot of money to produce this expensive piece of research that they put out in a piece of content that was about the average salaries of engineers, different kinds of engineers. They did all this research and study. They paid for it, put it out, and then other places wrote about it. Well, guess what? One of the other sites that wrote about their study got the answer box. So it's their data they paid for, sweat and blood, put out for their content, and somebody else was getting it. And that upset them for a little while. And then they went back and looked at their page where that information was on their site, and they realized, and they looked back at the not competitor, but the other site, the journalistic site that got the answer box, and he was, they had clearly answered the question. They had it was there right there. The average salary for a San Francisco software engineer is $103,367. Nowhere on their page was it that clear. The answer was there, but it was spread out with all this other text, and it wasn't. The dumb Google machine couldn't figure out this is the answer. So they said, let's do a little experiment. Let's rewrite the page. And they rewrote the page to make the structure more clearly. And sure enough, a week or 2 later, they jumped up into the answer box. Because their site, first of all, is a very high domain authority site. And I'm not saying, by the way, we've checked this, and that's not always a guarantee. It's not always the highest domain authority site. But probably Google was able to recognize this was the original site, this is the authoritative site, so they gave them into the answer box. So a little story there was a successful experiment. This is somebody intentionally trying to get into the answer box and did it. So it can be done. Jake.
So now what is an RFP? The Wikipedia has taken over the box.
Yep.
They've also taken over position number 1 and moved your boy down to position number 2.
Yeah. So Wikipedia was always position 1 in the regular results, and Wikipedia did have the answer box before, and it's been going back and forth between the two of them. So there's some kind of experiment on this thing going on.
Because they can't give the palms to Wikipedia for everything.
Right. Yeah. They're trying not to. It looks like in many cases. Yeah.
Why don't just go to Wikipedia?
Right. So they may be just testing on this particular query. They may be actually running a test and saying, like, do people click on the answer box more when it's Wikipedia? Do they click on it more when it's a regular website? So we may be actually witnessing a live kind of automated test going on there.
So, do you think that Google has people assigned to certain questions and they're
Oh, no. Well, yes and no. I mean, I think the bulk of it is automated, and it's just like there's algorithms within the algorithms that are test algorithms that just run like, try this, try that. If you see these kind of two varied results, these 2 sites, try one for a while, try this one for a while. Give this one to this to some people, but not to other people. Yeah, A/B testing, just automated testing, and then they.
just wondering how much are they really putting some eyes on it to do a reality check?
But why I said yes and no is they probably do, because we know they do it with search. We have the quality, the search quality examiners, these people that.
Stone Temple, you don't think you're doing it.
But they, I believe they probably do, because again, with search, we know they have those search quality, what their official title is, maybe somebody knows, but they're people who go through like this huge amount of training to, and they just sit like, and they give them different search results for a query, and they human rate, but they learn like how to do this. They human rate, and they say like those don't go into the algorithm, just like that doesn't affect the search rankings. But what they use that for is to tweak the algorithm. Say like, okay, we get real humans who are trained to pay attention, and they know what we mean by a quality result, and they say like, no, the third one's better than the second one, and then we start looking at why is the third one better than the second one, and if we learn something from that, then we can feed it into the algorithm. So I believe probably with this, it's very likely that at some level there are people who are looking at it, looking at the results. The machine is spitting out, results, and then some human has to look at it eventually and say, like, well, why is that better than that? What can we learn from that we can apply more broadly and build into the algorithm? That's just my speculation, but probably what they're doing. Okay, now let's get to the takeaways, and then we can get to any questions that you have. This is the only part of my presentation that's bad presentation, which is text on the screen, and I'm going to read it to you. But these are the things that I think that we kind of know at this point about something that's very much in flux. So if you want to, before I do this first takeaway, let me give a little sort of a caveat or something you should be thinking about. It's not an automatic decision. Do you want to get that answer box at the top? There's obviously maybe some cases, if you think you can get an answer box in a way that's going to drive more traffic to your site, that might be a good thing. Or in some cases, it's just the branding. I remember at MozCon 2013, I think it was, where live on stage, while either Rand Fishkin or Dr. Pete was presenting, they were doing some queries from the stage, and they said, "Oh my gosh, there's like Moz." Moz has a whole FAQ of SEO terms and glossary, and they typed in a question, what is some kind of SEO term? And there was Moz's answer scraped in the answer box. And at first, I can't remember who was on the stage, it was a Moz employee. They were kind of, it was Cyrus Shepard. He was kind of ticked about this. He said, like, they've scraped our site. This is don't do evil, Google. What are you doing scraping our site? And then somebody else from Moz, shouted out from the crowd, branding. And Cyrus got it instantly, and he said, you know what? They're going to put somebody's answer in there. Even if nobody clicks through, they're seeing, where did that answer come from? It came from Moz.com. And if they start seeing a lot of those, maybe there's some value to that. Saying, like, again, can't beat them, join them. If there's, would you rather have your competitor being there, always showing as the authoritative answer, which is kind of, that's the subtle message, right? Google chose us out of all the websites in the world. We chose you, and you're the answer in the box. Yeah, there's different ways to look at it. So it's not a clear-cut decision to get the check. Think out your own business model, your own advantage. Do you even want to? But if you want to, here's some things that we're starting to notice that may be commonalities that you can try and start experimenting with and see if you can get into answer boxes. So having clear natural language in your articles that directly answers the most likely questions about any factual information. So we're not talking about just short answers. That's not necessarily what gets, some people think like, well, I need to have a lot of pages that are like individual FAQ pages, one-liner answers. And that's not the goal. First of all, if you drove traffic to those, it's not going to be very valuable converting traffic because it's thin content. But actually, a lot of the pages are very thick content pages. But there's got to be something. Remember the example of Glassdoor earlier. There's got to be something there where the machine, the Google machine, can read it and say like, oh, this is the answer. So you got to think like, my friend AJ Cohn, his website is called Blind 5-Year-Old. You say, why is your site called Blind 5-Year-Old? Google is like a blind 5-year-old. It's like a little kid stumbling around in the dark trying to figure out the answers. And it's, on the one hand, Google is incredibly sophisticated. On the other hand, it's pretty dumb. So be obvious, first takeaway. Okay. Every direct answer follows a formula. This is something that we've been noticing. So if you start seeing, sites that are not yours that are getting a direct answer, start to go click through the page, see what they've got on there. There's something about that page that your page doesn't have that's getting them in the direct answer box. If you can figure that out, the pattern that's on there, it might help you to jump in. Now, maybe I'm not saying you're going to be able to take the answer box away from them, because that's something that some people we know have been testing, and sometimes you can do it, but more often you can't, and it's really hard to do. So better strategy is, okay, they've got that one, but what could we answer? What else could we answer or put in a direct answer that might get us in the answer box in a way that drives traffic to our site? So that's the second one. Third one, create larger exhaustive lists that Google can't fit completely in an answer box. So answer the question, but do it with a lot of steps, more than 3 or 4 steps, or have some of your steps have more text to them. So don't have every step just one sentence, but make sure some of the steps have, especially early on in the first 2 or 3 steps of if you're doing step by step or you're doing a list, have some that have multiple sentences, so you get that ... ellipses, or if you have more than 3 or 4 steps, you're probably going to get the more info, and you're more likely to get a click-through from the bots. Does that make sense? Fourth takeaway, provide teaser text. This is one, again, from Aaron Riley from Glassdoor, who's just really been doing some intensive looking into how these things work. Provide teaser text right after your direct answer that hints there is more the reader would want to know. What I mean by this is, by teaser text, you mean actually write in as part of the answer, kind of be sneaking away, like, I think the one example I saw, I can't remember the exact thing, but this one was rather clever. I don't know if they were trying to get into the answer box, but it made me want to click more. Was like, there was like a one line, it was like something like a type of legal procedure. But and then like this, the next line was, but let us tell you about many exceptions to this. And that was the end of the Google box. There's exceptions, wait, click. I got to see what are the exceptions before I get sued. So, if you can do that kind of thing, it's clever, might work, all right? And this is the caveat. If you use rank tracking software, most of the rank tracking software there gets fooled by answer boxes. So you might think, this is something to be aware of now, you might think like, your software is telling you, wow, we dropped 2 positions on that query. Well, what actually is happening is there's an answer box on the page, and the ranking software sometimes counts that as the first position. We've seen ranking software that count an answer box as like 3 positions. So now you get the number, you actually have the number 1 organic result, but your rank software is showing you as number 4 because it's counting the answer box as 3. So be aware of that. It's one of those things like when we see, if you see a change in your analytics, don't panic. You got to look a little deeper. You got to say what's really going on here. Some cases it could be a search feature, not just an answer box. It could be some search feature that's monkeying with your rankings. All right, that is it. The deck is online down there at stonekey.co/Google Answers Raleigh. If you want to get it, it's up on SlideShare. And thanks very much. If you have questions, another try.
So, is there a way to do a traffic analysis on how many times particular questions are asked?
How many times particular questions are asked?
I don't know if it's even worthwhile to answer any of these questions if nobody's asking.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you're actually asking about, right, answer tools, things like that, the different, anything you use for, kind of keyword research, really, that's what you're doing is keyword research, saying like, how popular is this particular query? So that it's really that similar, I think, in that way to doing keyword research for content. We're saying, how popular is this? How competitive is it? What are our chances? You're always doing that balance, right? Between, like, if we go for something less competitive, we have a better chance of getting the ranking, or in this case, maybe getting the answer box. If we go for something more competitive, it would have bigger return, but it's going to be harder to get it. So, yeah. Yes.
I don't know. In my simple mind, this Google Voice thing on my phone has fooled me, but I gotta admit, I do, now that I've learned to use this, I do find myself asking questions and just say, okay, Google, now give me the answer.
Yeah.
And there it is.
Yeah, that's all you wanted, right?
That's really what I wanted. Is this the same as just typing in a question, or is there something different going on in the way that Google
That is a good question.
I love just getting the answer.
Yeah. There's got to be a lot of, you're talking about the kind of answers you just get from Google Now, what we call Google Now, is where you just
I say, okay, Google Now,
Yeah.
tell me the best place to get a steak in Raleigh.
Yeah.
Is that Cortana?
Well, the Cortana is Microsoft's version of
What's Google?
that Google Now. And then there's Siri is the Apple version. They're all attempts at being personal assistants that answer your questions, things like that. We don't know, the good question behind that is like, there's got to be some overlap, but we don't find all the same kinds of results. We have, because we did a study back in the fall, we threw all kinds of money out the window to do a big study back in last fall of the mobile knowledge answers. We compared Google Now versus Siri versus Cortana. We had a head off, and of course, Google Now won hands down as far as the number of answers that it returned. But one of the benefits of looking at that is when we did this second study where we were doing doing desktop queries, we saw that there was overlap, but there was also a lot of difference. So I think there's got to be some at the base technology of it, it's got to be the same, but they're using it differently between the two, as far as we can see. Yes.
So this is kind of more, I guess, a little higher level than the tactical level, but well, and kind of as an aside, I thought it was interesting because we had a company called Automated Insights, and they basically take structured data and produce content, and then Google takes that content and then produces structured data for their website. So I think it's interesting that they're creating that. We're seeing more algorithmically written content on websites, and then also, you know, the whole conversation behind Google
Yes.
still
Machines talking to machines.
yeah,
Right?
basically. But
Yeah.
I guess the point is that you know, a lot of this data that Google's showing is not like novel data. You know what I mean? It's data that there's high confidence in because it's either repeatability or they're going to the source of who would be the most trustworthy site to kind of deliver that data, right? So if it's taking that data and that information as a commodity, what does that mean for what type of content? If they're providing answers and making a lot of the website content that's on websites a commodity, what does that mean about content in the next 5 years? I mean,
That is the question. Yeah.
yeah,
That's
we
a great-
do,
yeah.
you know, law firm websites and like divorce lawyer, you know, my husband, you know, did this or blah, blah, blah to me. It's a terrible thing. You know, it's not like you're going to ask that to Google and you're going to be compassionate and push more emotion
Well,
content.
yeah, great question. Great question. Yeah, I think that's like a year ago. The answer we were giving to clients, and when we spoke about this in public, was get out of the commodity information business. You know, but what I'm showing you tonight is, maybe not. You know, there could still be some win in commodity information if you can get in the answer box in a way that drives traffic to your site. So it's not completely dead, but it's going to be a lot harder. And I think it does make a case. It should have, you know, I'm speaking my content marketing heart now, not my SEO heart, is that it should have always been the case that you want to have content that's compelling, that's entertaining, you know, not for law content, but, you know, or whatever it is, you know, that it goes above and beyond the competition. That's not just another spun article out there. And I think a lot of us are coming to that realization that that's not just for Google, but it's in the battle to win customers. It's in the battle to convert people. It's in the battle to, you know, you asked that question earlier, like, why do we spend so much money on these kinds of studies and doing this kind of data and research? It's because it's the only way we have to show out there we're not just another digital marketing agency. You know, this is the levels that we go to, and this is what we'll do for you as a client. So, yeah, I think there's, you know, I think this is just another case where you've got to be thinking that direction. Like, how does our content differentiate us from everybody else that's doing the same old? It's a great question.
You mentioned the answer boxes are at least somewhat static, if not set in. Once a company, a website has been identified by Google as providing a good answer, if somebody's wanting to compete, how do they compete with that? Because eventually, I don't want to say all the questions will be answered, but a significant number of the most common questions will have already been answered, and those answers will be entrenched. How do you then compete?
Yeah, well, it's exactly that.
And like beat the person that's out there first.
Right, it's the same old thing, isn't it? It's like, you know, the story I told earlier about Moz getting that result. You know, do you think you're going to knock Moz off? I mean, Wikipedia is probably their only competition, just because, you know, in the SEO space, Google sees them as such a, you know, probably sees them as such a hugely trusted site. There are a few other sites that could maybe knock them out, but plus that SEO glossary page has been around forever, and it's got a zillion links to it, and it's got so much authority. So, you know, it's some of the same old questions, isn't it? But yeah, but then on the other hand, we've seen people who are experimenting with this. We've seen people do it. I said it's not easy to do. We've seen people knock somebody else out of the answer box by creating a better answer. Interesting experiment on this. Just great quick story again for Dr. Pete of Moz did this because he saw like he was tooling around one day and he saw that the Moz site got an answer box for, in a really weird way, for a blog post of his that was answering the question, was it how much money does Google make? And so Google returned an answer from his blog post, but it was Google's earnings from 2010. And this was this year, it was in 2015. He said, so that's not a good answer because it's old, it's out of date. But they just somehow picked up, some combination of the authority of Moz plus it was an offhand comment. It was like his blog post wasn't anything about Google's earnings or anything. That's not what he writes about. It was like an offhand comment somewhere buried in the blog post about, I wonder how much Google makes. Well, in 2010 they made this, but so he did an experiment. He said, like, what if we restructure that, update that information? So I'm going to change that part of the blog post to have the have the latest information. And he expected, and he saw the Google bot come through, the page got crawled, and he just sat back and waited, right? And waited, and waited, and 2 months went by, and 3 months went by, and it was still showing the old answer, even though they changed the page, and Google had crawled it. And all of a sudden, 3 months, one day, the new answer was in there. So weirdness. So like, I don't know why I told this story. It's still a weird Wild West world. What Dr. Pete guessed out of that, and it might be a valuable piece of information, is that while Google crawls a site like Moz pretty regularly and pretty quickly, what's happening with these answer boxes is a separate knowledge base, and it's not
like the rolling out back in the day of the data farms.
Right.
And they'd be
Right,
rolling out because they didn't have the power to be
Sure.
like they are today.
So they're not bothering right now with necessarily updating that knowledge base on a constant real-time basis. Now you can bet they're going to, if they keep up with this thing, they will invest in that, and they will be doing that because that'll be important. Nobody's searching for how much does Google make once, unless they said in 2010. So they want to know how much is Google making now, right? Pam?
When did the answer box start on Google? When did they start?
Oh, I didn't know there'd be a quiz.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. Yeah, well, the direct answers, the simple direct answers, I guess like 2012, maybe, I want to say the first of those. 2013, definitely, we started saying, but in 2013 was mostly still the, when was Abraham Lincoln born date, very simple like that. Then we started seeing, late 2013, we started seeing the more rich answers, but almost all from Wikipedia or Freebase. And then within 2014 was when we started seeing more and more of the straight results. Yeah. And then these very creative direct answers, the rich answers, as we call them, with the tabs and the sliders and all the toys, the forms. Anything from Twitter? Twitter's quiet.
I actually already asked those two questions.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. You want to leave us out? Yeah.
Can I understand the slide where you're talking about the 20% of the 850,000 with box answers, that of those 75% had attribution, or they would know, it would show my company as the one. So that's how you, at least at this point in time, it's really work being in there. 75% of the time they can tell directly to your company.
Right, but the attribution, again, we don't know. That's no guarantee they're going to click it. And again, that's why I tried to show those different types of boxes. In some cases, like they probably aren't, it could be flashing and have little, dancing girls spinning around and saying, click here, and nobody's going to click it because if the question's answered, we're done, goodbye, I'm on to something else. But if it's a type of answer that leads people, they want to know more, then the attribution will be very valuable. That's the main deal, I think, there. On that. Okay. Anything else?
Thank you very much.
Good, thank you.